Hey there, and welcome to this Explainer. I'm honestly so pumped to have you here today because we're diving into something that is an absolute game changer. We're talking about the incredible field of neuroaesthetic interior design. Today, we're going to explore how we can completely transform the rooms where we live, work, and heal. We're taking them from just, pretty decorative backdrops and turning them into highly calibrated, scientific tools for our nervous system. So this isn't just about picking out a cute paint chip. No, this is about biological architecture. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt anxious, maybe a little on edge, or just inexplicably exhausted in a perfectly white room? Think of a hospital waiting area or one of those stark, ultra-modern offices. Well, you're not imagining things, and it actually isn't just a matter of your personal taste. Your physical environment is quietly but constantly dictating your physiological state. Literally every surface, every shadow, every reflection is firing off a direct signal straight to your brain. And that brings us exactly to what we're breaking down today. Neuroaesthetic interior design is the application of neuroscience and cognitive science to design built environments that scientifically support human psychology, perception, and health. We're completely shifting the paradigm here, guys. We're moving way past that subjective idea of, oh, what looks beautiful, and stepping firmly into the hard biological reality of how does this space actually make my body function. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, design beyond mere decoration. The absolute golden rule of neuroaesthetics is that design goes way, way beyond mere decoration. And color, it never, ever works in isolation. Just think about the stark contrast between how we used to design spaces for health versus how we know we should design them today. On one hand, you have traditional clinical spaces, pure white walls, bright LEDs, crazy high glare. For the longest time, we thought this meant clean. But biologically speaking, glossy, pure white paired with bright LEDs creates immense visual glare and completely fatigues your nervous system. Now, on the flip side, neuroaesthetic spaces use warm neutrals and circadian lighting. This creates what we call a soft visual landing, providing a psychological safety net that is genuinely restorative. All right, moving right along to section 2, the science of perception. This whole concept is built on the hard science of human perception. We aren't just talking about abstract design theory here. This is rooted in serious medical research from places like Harvard Medical School's Livingston Lab. The research shows that our brains actually process color and luminance, which is just the intensity of light, and form in completely different ways. So, what does that mean for a physical room? Well, it means a designer can't just slap a trendy color on a wall and call it a day. They have to precisely control hue, brightness, contrast, visual clarity, and even shadow. Harvard's Healthy Buildings work and the Well Building Standards really hit the nail on the head here. Buildings are biological health tools. When you walk into a room, you are quite literally walking into a health intervention. Now for section 3, research-backed color psychology. So, knowing all that science, how do specific color families actively manipulate the human body? Let's kick things off with blue, green, and sage tones. We're talking soft sage, eucalyptus, muted teal, mist blue. The research is absolutely clear here. These are your strongest choices for inducing calm, restoration, and trust. They're literally proven to reduce stress and anxiety in large areas like recovery rooms or quiet workspaces. And this is a big but. Context totally matters. You have to avoid very cold blue-white spaces. If the blue leans too icy, the environment suddenly shifts from feeling calming to feeling clinical, lonely, and totally emotionally detached. Next up, we have warm neutrals. As we touched on a minute ago, pure white is actually pretty hostile to the nervous system. Instead, you want to use ivory, oat, mushroom, greige, and pale taupe as your necessary base colors. They are far superior to pure white because they provide true emotional safety. They give your eyes that absolutely critical soft visual landing we keep talking about. Whether it's your ceiling, your main walls, or large furniture, these warm neutrals gently prevent the visual fatigue and high glare that we're constantly battling in traditional wellness spaces. Then we get into the high energy spectrum. Think reds, oranges, and really strong yellows. Environmental color research shows these can drastically change your physiological arousal. In fact, sometimes a red room can produce even higher physical arousal than a blue room. Because of this, you absolutely want to avoid using them in large applications. You really only want to use these as small accents, maybe for wayfinding, a little hospitality corner, or signage. You definitely want to avoid full red or orange walls in anxiety-sensitive areas or psychiatric recovery spaces because they can actively, measurably increase patient anxiety. Which brings us to section 4, the power of circadian lighting. Look, you could pick the most scientifically perfect paint color in the entire world, but it is completely meaningless without the right lighting. Let me share a really fascinating piece of research to prove this. 476. That's the number of patients involved in a remarkable PLOS medicine trial conducted in an acute psychiatric unit. The researchers randomly assigned these 476 patients to different lighting environments in the evening. Half got standard evening light, and the other half got a blue depleted evening light environment. Now, why deplete the blue light? Well, as Harvard Health explains, blue light at night suppresses melatonin much more strongly than green light, and it aggressively shifts our circadian rhythm. And you guys, the results of that psychiatric unit trial were astounding. The patients in the blue depleted evening environment showed additional clinical improvement and displayed measurably less aggressive behavior. All of that just by changing the light bulb. In practice, this means spaces need brighter, daylight-balanced light during the day, but they absolutely must shift to warm, amber dimmable lighting in the evening. Let's look at Section 5, the Neuroaesthetic color formula. Now let's talk highly practical application. The golden ratio for designing a premium space is 70-20-10. Basically, 70% of your space should be your calm base, your warm whites, ivories, and grays. 20% should be your restorative nature colors, your sages, muted teals, and olive grays. And finally, just 10% should be your emotional accents, so a touch of terracotta, clay, or bronze. Sticking to this ratio is a real game changer. It ensures a space feels expensive, intelligent, and deeply human, while totally avoiding that sterile hospital look. This framework essentially maps your biological intention directly to premium color recommendations. Say your design intention is to calm the nervous system. Well, you'd use sage, mist blue, and warm ivory, because they naturally trigger low arousal. If you want luxury warmth, you lean into greige, oat, and walnut, because it feels sophisticated and non-clinical. For focus and thinking, muted blue and soft white support your attention without any visual noise. And for wayfinding, deeper olives and bronzes help orient people without the harshness of a bright red sign. It's just an incredibly systematic, brilliant approach. All right, wrapping things up with Section 6, evidence-based design matters. How we communicate these concepts completely dictates our credibility in this field, which means we have to absolutely abandon pseudoscience freezing. You never want to say things like, this color heals patients, or green cures anxiety. It's just not scientifically accurate. Instead, say something like, this palette supports calm, reduces visual stress, and creates a psychologically restorative environment. That phrasing is professional, it is strictly evidence-based, and it perfectly reflects the incredible nuances of the science we've been exploring. Because the truth is, this field is advancing so rapidly. The Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, or ANFA, notes that the future of neuroarchitecture entirely relies on cognitive science. It has moved permanently beyond just beautiful color, directly into measurable physiological impact. In fact, current research is constantly refining these design formulas by putting people in virtual reality and using biometric measurements. They're actually tracking exact heart rates and nervous system responses to different spatial designs. It's absolutely fascinating. Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to ponder. Now that you know your physical environment is a biological tool, how will you redesign your own environment to support your nervous system? Seriously, take a second and look around the room you're in right now. Is it helping you or is it draining you? It's pretty wild to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you walk away seeing the spaces around you in a completely new light.